Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
Hello, Aubrey. How are you doing today? I'm doing well. Doing well.
Excellent. I am so excited for this episode. We are talking about getting burned out when studying for IELTS. I know a lot of you are in that situation. We are going to provide some amazing tips to help you avoid that or get
Yes.
through it if you're feeling it. Lindsay, when's the last time you felt burned out?
Oh, Aubrey, maybe right now.
You're feeling it. You needed
I'm
vacation.
feeling it a little bit. Usually when we build courses, when we're in a course
Mm,
building cycle, that brings me to the edge of burnout a little bit, to be honest, because there's a lot to do when we build a new course and we want it to be amazing. And so usually I try to treat myself to a little trip, a little vacation, even just a long weekend if I can. Yeah.
nice. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great example. And a lot of you are in that exact same boat with IELTS, especially if
Mhm.
you've been studying for a while. But even if you've just started and you're feeling overwhelmed, you could
Mhm.
quickly feel burned out. We're answering a question today from Gisela, studying for IELTS. She was in one of our IELTS webinars and just said, I'm feeling so burned out. And
Yes.
with a
Yes.
crying emoji, I feel
Yes.
that, right? We've all been there. And
Yes.
you need strategies to be able to overcome that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, before we get into it, to how do we identify burnout? I mean, how do we know when we're burnt out, right?
Yeah, when it comes to studying for an exam, there are a lot of symptoms, right? But you would
Mhm.
likely dread studying. Anytime you
Mhm.
think about IELTS, you might just feel like it's such drudgery. You're not looking forward to it. You're not having fun studying. With
Mhm.
IELTS, it's even more difficult because it's a high stakes exam.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
a looming deadline, and you likely need to get your scores before maybe applying for school, immigrating,
Mhm.
accepting a job. Your
Mhm.
family might be in another country waiting for you to get your IELTS scores. There's so much pressure
Right.
often on an
Yeah.
exam like this.
Exactly, and then other symptoms, you might feel a little tired, you might feel a little depressed, right? Sometimes that does
Mhm.
happen with burnout. You might be having memory issues, right?
Yeah,
I think when you are burnt out, sometimes it's hard to actually learn new things. So,
absolutely. You might
and
find your
when
mind wandering when you're trying to
Mhm.
read or listen to English, difficulty
Mhm.
staying focused. Yeah,
Yeah, you might have a lack of appetite. They're actually physical symptoms of burnout. It's not just a mental experience. Your body will push back depending on how burned out you are, right? So just be
yes.
aware of that, okay?
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research of how to tackle burnout when you're feeling it, how to
Mhm.
avoid it. The first tip that psychologists recommend is to name your stress out loud to a loved one, to a friend or a family member, someone that will support you and understand, to get
Mhm.
this negative emotion sort of out of your head and give it to someone else is very healing.
Mhm. I love that. And if for some reason a friend or family member is not available or it just doesn't feel right, you can have a therapist, right? That's also
Absolutely.
something we advocate here. That's what therapy is for, to give this to someone in a sense to work through it, right?
Exactly, right? Because when you're in it, like we say in English, you're super involved in a situation like
Mhm.
studying. Often
Mhm.
it's tough to even see how much harm it's causing to your mental state or your physical state, right?
Mhm.
You're just trying to like keep grinding, keep going, and
Mhm.
ignoring a lot of these symptoms that a
Yeah.
therapist would help you work through, or a friend
Yes.
or family member could help you talk through how are you feeling? What can we do to move past this?
Yes, completely. And then we have this expression, you can't see the forest through the trees. That's a good one. You're stuck, right? You
Right? You're too
are
involved
totally
in the
blind.
little details. You
Yeah.
sort of lose track of the bigger goal, the bigger picture. You might
Mhm.
even be studying the wrong things because you're
Yeah.
getting into the nitty-gritty details, and you might end up wasting time when you're not able to really focus on what you should be.
Yeah, I find when I get distance from something, like if I don't, let's say, work for a weekend, or if it's the equivalent of studying, you just get away from it for a full weekend completely, it's much easier to see the overall structure of what you're doing, right? Ask
Exactly.
those questions. Am I actually studying the right way with the right people,
Exactly.
right?
Right. An example might be if you are memorizing phonemes, like sounds for individual letters,
Mhm.
vowels, and consonants. You might be getting hung up on how to make these sounds and
Mhm.
not seeing the bigger picture for pronunciation for your IELTS speaking score. And your focus
Right.
needs to be more on the full expression, the full sentence, words and syllable stress, and how intonation changes. You might know how to pronounce all of those phonemes, but not how to, not, but still not be able to get the pronunciation score you want.
Right. It always has to come back to what the examiner is going to see in your speaking, right? How are they going to
Right.
respond? How are they going to score you? Ultimately, IELTS, we're trying to get past this test, right? We're trying to get the score we need to move on. So we need to focus on that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And the second tip was to detox.
Mm.
So, this, especially a digital detox. If you're approaching burnout or if you're in it, right, you can detox just like some people, a digital detox is like you put away your phone, computer, get out in nature, not do
Hmm.
it at all. You can do the same thing for IELTS. Schedule a few days away from IELTS, put it in your planner, and give yourself a
Hmm.
break.
This is why we recommend starting, with maybe 90 days available before your test or 60 days rather than 30. You can do it in 30. You can do it with our course in 30. However, you're not giving yourself any room for burnout or room for error or for stepping back, right?
Right, exactly. Or if you're taking a couple of years to plan for IELTS, you're
Mhm.
probably going to get test fatigue, burnout, right? Both of those
Ugh.
have their own difficulties.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So scheduling in these times away is also part of your study plan, isn't it, Aubrey?
Yes, exactly. It's vital, right? In the study plan that we provide for all of our 3 Keys IELTS students,
Mhm.
these breaks are scheduled in, weekly breaks. This is vital that you take some time off,
And also to kind of let your brain absorb what you've learned. If
right?
you're constantly bringing in new strategies, this is why it's dangerous to just study online by bouncing around from YouTube channel to blog. You need to stick with one system because you will be totally overwhelmed with different contrasting strategies if you don't
Exactly.
stick with one system. Yeah.
And it's so vital to have a study plan because if it is more clear to you what you need to do each day and what the end result is, this can help avoid burnout and help you get through it, overcome it, because you have this organized system of knowing what you're doing each day, knowing when you'll be finished, knowing what to prepare when, instead of sort of just blindly trying to do everything all at once, which will lead to burnout.
Love it. So good. All right, Aubrey, we have a third tip for our listeners. What do we do if we're burned out? And what is that tip?
Yeah, or to avoid burnout. We talk about this a lot here on IELTS Energy to keep your test planning, test preparing, studying enjoyable. Make it fun. And there are a lot
Yes.
of things you can do. Don't just do IELTS practice exams, right?
Mhm.
Yes, you want to do question sets, but you want to limit yourself to a few full practice exams per week max. If you are
Totally.
doing 10, 20 practice exams every week, that is miserable. That's not fun. You're going to start really dreading your study time.
Exactly. Bring your own personality into it. Listen to this show. We try to keep it entertaining, but also informative at the same time. Look at our speaking sample answers and think about how you're going to insert your own personality into your speaking and writing test, right?
Yes.
That's fun to think about, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you want to choose material that is interesting and motivating to you. If you really hate reading the news, that should not be your only reading practice. Read a comic book, read a novel, read something
Mhm.
you find interesting. Yes, you
Mhm.
need ideas from the news for your task 2 essays, for example, but to improve your overall reading fluency, you should be reading something you really enjoy and look forward to reading.
Yeah, like The Onion is a great example. I think that's published in New York, isn't it? Probably
Right.
is.
So, yes.
It's an online newspaper, and I think it was a physical newspaper at one point in which the articles are all sarcastic, right? So
Yes, they're
nothing's
funny and
real.
entertaining, right? Exactly. That's the kind of thing that you would maybe look forward to reading the next Onion article.
Yes, just make sure you know that nothing is real in that newspaper, right?
Right,
We have
exactly.
to know the angle there. And then what else, Aubrey? What else can we do here?
Well, you also want to be spending time with both people and material that's lighthearted and joyful. So
Mhm.
not only that appeals to you, right? Let's say that you really like dark comedies or dark dramas,
Ah,
that you might want to expand out of that and find something that's really lighthearted and joyful if you're
yeah.
needing to overcome a feeling of burnout.
Yeah, find a new series that's light. I always recommend the series Ghosts. I'm sure I've told you
Yes.
this a few times, Aubrey. Check out that show. It's a very cute show. There's a lot of good TV out there that we
Yeah,
can
so
enjoy.
many great TV shows, podcasts that are a
Mhm.
little more lighthearted and fun. The Last Podcast on the Left is a great one. Armchair Experts, really fun. You can learn so
Mhm.
much vocab and improve your listening fluency also by listening to something that's a little more lighthearted that might help you, come
Yes.
out of it if you're feeling kind of down.
Yeah, studying doesn't have to be drudgery, right? We can actually
Right.
enjoy it and consider it kind of entertainment, sort of this idea of blending learning with entertainment. I actually love that idea.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Guys, if you are feeling that burnout or if you feel it coming, even if you don't yet, it could happen, right? As we're studying for an exam, not the most fun thing to do in the whole world. I'm glad you're here. We
Yeah.
try to keep these IELTS energy episodes very fun, but also there's a lot that you can do to avoid burnout. So use today's tips to make sure that you can keep your study fun.
So incredibly important, Aubrey. Good topic today. And guys, don't forget to hit the follow button right here on IELTS Energy to make IELTS Energy part of your edutainment, part of your preparation,
Yes,
but also a way to kind of keep it light. We make IELTS fun here. It's a good way to look at IELTS. All right. Good stuff.
absolutely.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thanks, Lindsay. Super fun.
All right. Take care, Aubrey. Have a good one. Talk
See you
soon.
next time. Bye.
Bye.